Hi guys and welcome back to my channel, and in today's episode we are going to build a habitat for this small little adorable creature from Africa, the African crested porcupine. These spiky but adorable animals need a habitat that's not only functional but also highlights their natural behaviors. We'll start with the indoor area located in the African Small Mammal House, and then we will move outside to design a lush and interactive space that's perfect for our porcupines. So let's get started. The first thing I did with this habitat was to roughly map out the indoor section of the habitat, and for that I reused the barrier that I used or designed for the meerkat habitats, and I kind of split it into two because I wanted to give it like a rounded shape, almost like an 8. So for that I basically just reused the fences from the meerkats, and I also clipped in the self-made door that I did. And later I decided to put in a planter between those two rounded shapes because I felt like the whole front wall just being glass would be a little bit too boring and too open, since the back wall is also basically all made of glass. So I decided to put in some more foliage. So I basically just copied one of the plant pieces that I did for the entry to this building, and I kind of just copied and pasted it back into this place. And to kind of hide the wall of the little backstage area that we have here, I again used the walk walls from Caesar, same as I did with the Kirkstick and also the African spurred tortoise habitat. And for the African crested porcupines, I also wanted to make sure to kind of hide or at least block the way to the wooden pieces, because the porcupines, they like to gnaw on wood. So having wooden pieces within the habitat of like the walls and stuff like that wouldn't really make a lot of sense, because they would wear down pretty quickly probably with these animals. So I also later decided to block the way to the facade of the building, because it is also made out of wood, and we don't want the porcupines to gnaw on the literal structure of the building. So I use these fence pieces. I also like the rusty look of them, and I kind of had like this rust theme throughout the whole habitat at this point. So I basically used them to block the porcupines from going up to the wooden pieces of the wall. They wouldn't be like too much blocking of the whole habitat, just a little bit, and they would also have some plants behind those fences so it wouldn't look too bare. I also later lowered the fences a little bit more to the ground, because as I was placing the animals inside the habitat at the end, I realized that the fence is like unnecessarily high, so I kind of lowered it just a little bit to make it not as super visible or prominent, but it's still being functional and not letting the porcupines up to the wooden pieces of the wall. I also copied a lot of the pieces that I did for the meerkat habitat, such as this little faux rock platform and also the little heating lamp, and also a lot of the plants that I used within the meerkat habitat I also used in the crested porcupine habitat, just not the like really green bushes, because the porcupines would most likely eat a lot of the foliage. So I try to stay more on like the drier side when it comes to the plants. And as I said, the porcupines like to gnaw on wood, so I made sure to incorporate a lot of wooden pieces that they can gnaw on, such as broken down trees and also a lot of branches. So I incorporated a lot of these also in ways where they wouldn't really get up to it. It's more of like a decorative piece, and then other pieces where the animal just can do whatever they want with these branches, and that they could be replaced pretty easily. And to still have a little bit of greenery inside this habitat, I also placed down a couple of smaller trees, but I made sure to build some tree guards so that the animals don't destroy the bark of the tree and potentially hurting the tree. And since we already had this like rusty theme inside this habitat, I also used these rust pieces from the Australia pack, I believe, to build the little tree guards. And before we start talking further about the habitat and what I did, and also when it comes to the outside area, I wanted to talk about a different topic this time, and it is same as always, like my schedule that is not on point. I'm trying to get better and trying to at least have it like every 2 weeks a video, but sometimes I find myself struggling with motivation, especially when it comes to me building bigger like areas or buildings like the African Small Mammal House. When I start these projects, I'm always like super hyped and I really want to get this going, and it starts really well. But after like probably 3 to 4 habitats, I start to really slow down on this project and I kind of get maybe bored, or maybe it's a little bit too repetitive building habitats in the same style or biome every time. And I find myself not keeping up with my schedule that I wanted to have. And as I was realizing that building the same area or the same style over and over again, I thought maybe I should stop trying to finish a certain projects within a certain time. Let's say I'm building 7 habitats in one building or one area, so I want to finish this in most likely 7 weeks, so 1 episode every week. But I never really get ended with these habitats, and then I was just closing a PlanetZoo and I was watching some YouTube videos to maybe get some more inspirations, and as I was watching Caesar's Markhor habitat video, he was actually talking about the same topic, and I was like, wow, this is like so weird that he's talking about the same topic. And as he was saying that he also gets bored when he's building certain areas like multiple weeks in a row, and he gets bored and it doesn't stay motivated. And I was also always asking myself how he stays so motivated putting out probably a video every week, as far as I know. So I after I watched that habitat of him, or this video of him, I thought to myself, I should probably stop building certain areas back to back and trying to finish them in one go. So I will probably start going back and forth between different projects and areas. They will all be in this one zoo. I especially built this zoo so that I can build pretty much every project within this and it would still fit. But I'm going to start to jump back and forth between different sections of the zoo. For example, I also never really finished the Oceania section of the zoo, which was the very first part that I started for this. After that, we started with the like petting zoo area when the Barnyard Animal Pack got out, and I also really never finished that one. And then I started this section, and like 3 or 4 habitats in with this project, I'm already getting a little bit bored right now. And when I get bored of, or not really bored of this, I still want to finish it, but my motivation is just super low and I really struggle to keep up with my schedule. So I will jump back and forth, maybe do like 1 or 2 episodes of a certain section or area, and then I will go back to a different building, for example. So I will stop building the African Small Mammal House for a second and I will start building somewhere else. Maybe I will be able to finish one of the other 2 sections that we have that are like more over half finished, I would say, especially the Barnyard Animal Pack section or the petting zoo section is pretty much finished when it comes to the habitats. And also I started building like a restaurant and a playground that I didn't really show online, and I just need to put everything together and finish the section as a whole. So in the next episode you're going to see in the future, we will not be building this one, but we will build something completely different, and then we will get back to this one in a couple of weeks. Definitely let me know in the comments if you struggle with this topic too and what you think about me switching back and forth between different sections. I definitely want to know your opinion on that, and maybe you have some different tips on how to stay active and motivated for this game. Maybe you have a different attempt of staying motivated, like watching YouTube videos, going or to a real life zoo and visiting that to get more inspiration. And maybe you have a completely different attempt or idea, so definitely write it down in the comments and let's discuss the best possibilities to get back into this game, and just let's help each other out a little bit on this topic. But let's get back to the African crested porcupine habitat, and now we are actually building the outside area for these animals. And as I was starting, I realized that I couldn't really keep up with the theme that I was going for with the other two outside areas, because they had wooden barriers, and as I said, we can't really have wood structures within this habitat, so I decided to replace them with stone and glass fences. And I also really like the look of it. It's something different, and maybe it's a good thing to not have all the barriers the same. And we will also copy this type of barrier to the next habitat that will be on the other side of the building and next to the African spurred tortoise, to kind of still keep it similar to one another and still being cohesive without being too repetitive. And since we are now on the outside here, I really like to use actual rocks. In inside areas, I really like to use the faux rocks, because this is typically what zoos do, especially if it's like bigger stone structures, because real stones or rocks would just be too heavy. So I really like to use the faux rocks on the inside and then real rocks on the outside, to also have a little bit more of a variety within this habitat. And in here I also remembered that we have these bark pieces. I always forget about them, and since this animal really likes to burrow and hide and just needs a lot of coverage to be able to feel comfortable, I decided to kind of make these like bark structures. They don't really look like super real. I also had this one bigger bark, like, what do you want to call it? Bark cave? Is it a cave? And the bigger one is actually traversable for the animal, and the smaller one is sadly not. But I still wanted to include that because I felt like the big one was a little bit too huge, and also wanted to have a smaller one here, so it just looks a little bit better. And then I basically did a really simple and also pretty much the same as on the inside when it comes to the foliage and the whole interior or the whole design. I again use a lot of the rock pebbles or the pebble piles that are also from Caesar, and I try to kind of fit in this foraging piece, or the enrichment item to better say, and it didn't really fit size-wise, and also the texture of it didn't really fit with the like painting tools that we have in this area. Since this is located on a temperate map, we have of course the temperate soil, and it doesn't really match the texture of the foraging box, especially since this habitat is more on the drier side. So I decided to not build this, and again, to kind of protect the outside wall of this building, I again used these rustic fences and covered them a little bit with some longer grasses that would grow on the back side of those fences. And I this time didn't include a water feature within this habitat, because as I was reading the best practice guidelines for the African crested porcupine, they said that they of course need water to drink, but they don't really need a water feature to like bath or something, because they don't really use it. I know that we have this like hot tap environment item for the African crested porcupine, but I still decided not to do a water feature, and instead we just have a little water bowl in the backstage area for the animals to just take a little sip if they are thirsty. And when it comes to the plants, I basically use the exact same ones that I used on the inside. It is again a pretty dry habitat with not a lot of greens, and we have a lot of wooden logs and branches so that the animals can gnaw on them. And I again placed down some little bit bigger trees this time with the rustic tree guards so that the animals don't hurt the trees. And we are almost at the very end of this episode, and I hope you enjoyed this video and liked the way I designed this habitat. Don't forget to hit the like button if you did, and subscribe to see more PlanetZoo content in the future. In a couple of seconds you will get to see more of this habitat in the cinematic shots, but I'm already saying my goodbyes, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Until then, bye guys!